Welcome back to Edgework here on the Hammer Betting Network, a daily live NHL show Monday through Friday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time. If you enjoy the content, please make sure to subscribe to this channel. It takes about 2 seconds to click that button. You also get notified every time that we go live, every time our new podcast with David Pagnotta, Dennis Bernstein, and Zach Bodenstein drops on Wednesdays, breaking down the biggest stories around the NHL, how they affect futures markets, looking at individual players' awards. So make sure to check that out, as well as our separate videos now breaking down some of the instant reactions of things going around in the NHL, all happening here on this channel. So make sure to subscribe to the Edgework YouTube channel. You can also track all the picks that we give out here on the BetStamp app in the Find Better section as Edgework HQ. So make sure to give that a look. Guys, only 5 days away from the Super Bowl here, and I didn't even know. I just got introduced to the fact that we've got an Eagles fan here on this panel. So, Todd, how are you feeling in this week leading up to the Super Bowl?
It's pretty stressful. I mean, the Eagles are stacked at pretty much every position, so I feel good about some of the edges. But
except quarterback.
I was gonna say, but facing Patrick Mahomes, the best QB in the league, and the coach that never loses off a bye, is pretty scary. So.
I love that I'm sporting the brand for Todd and I, where he's sporting a completely different brand right now with his Jalen Hurts jersey. Give the folks a pop that jersey a little bit there, Todd. There it is. That a boy. Yeah. So company man and 12 years old.
And somehow I'm supporting Joe Burrow, which I didn't even realize I put the shirt on this morning. So,
right.
Yeah, you've got a whole lot of conflicting things going on over there with your Joe Burrow's LSU support and the Western Michigan hat that's going on. There's a lot happening right now on this show this morning. But speaking of a lot happening, one thing that people get into a lot heading into the Super Bowl is cross-sport props and different bets that you can place as you lead in. Those things can get complicated, they can get crazy, but most of all, they can be fun to do and a good way to win money. And I know that we've got a couple of them lined up here today. So Matt, I know there's one that you're looking at as you head into the Super Bowl Sunday here. What cross-sport prop are you looking at for this Super Bowl?
Yeah, I love how you set that up as if I didn't wake up to a text this morning with you guys saying, hey, what about a cross-sport prop? As if I've just been biding my time for 10 days going I've got one, folks. I've got one.
To be fair,
I sent
it last night. So,
well, to be fair, I'm old and I go to bed at a reasonable hour at the very least. Okay, so the thing you have to understand, obviously, with these props, right, is okay, we'll just let the cat out of the bag here. The prop is Connor McDavid more points than Patrick Mahomes touchdown passes, and you're getting even money with Connor McDavid. And so obviously with, in sports, all the games happen well before the Super Bowl happens. So it's not like you're sitting there flipping back and forth or, two screen system cheering for Connor McDavid on one screen and against Patrick Mahomes on the other screen. Essentially what's going to happen is Connor McDavid is going to establish for Patrick Mahomes a new over-under total, right? And that total is either going to be 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on and so forth. So first we have to start with, okay, what do we think Connor McDavid is going to do against Alex's Montreal Canadiens? Alex, what do you think Connor McDavid's going to do against the Montreal Canadiens?
He's going to torch us.
The answer is probably score a fair amount of points. Now, he averages in general, obviously, 90 points through 50 games. You don't have to be, a high-level mathematician there to figure out that's about a 1.8 average per game. It's the Montreal Canadiens. I'm going to give him a little boost there. Let's say he gets 2 points. Now we're resetting McDavid's over-under market. Mahomes' over-under market for his touchdowns. Well, right now, his over 1.5 touchdowns is minus 220. But if you go into sort of the alternate touchdown market, him to get 3 or more touchdowns, now we're talking into the plus 180s type of area, right? So if the assumption here is that McDavid's going to score 2 at least, or sort of most likely, if you will, then we're requiring Mahomes to score 3 in order to get minus 145 on that side of the market. I don't really want that. And by the way, there's a very real possibility McDavid drops a 3-pointer, a 4-pointer, a 5-pointer. Like him against Montreal, there's a higher ceiling there where he can go kind of ham. Whereas I think there's, listen, Todd's Philadelphia Eagles defense, that's a pretty good group, right? Especially on the corners and the secondary, etc. I don't know that there's a ceiling for Mahomes that's as high as McDavid's. And so the reality is we're probably going to end up with 2 points from McDavid and 2 touchdowns, from Mahomes. I'm already getting screwed up with the terminology.
They both start with M, to be fair.
That's right. Doesn't do me any good. And have 7 letters in their name.
That was quick math.
Why?
Right?
Yeah.
That was really quick math.
Every once in a while, I'm relatively quick on my feet. So anyway, the point is, like, if we're looking at a probable McDavid 2-point game, then Mahomes at over 2 touchdowns. If I'm getting even money with McDavid, like I kind of when I'm assuming a push, or sort of when the most likely result is a push, and I can be getting plus money or at least even money in this case, like I'm pretty okay with kind of riding that out. Now, obviously, like I said, there's a chance McDavid goes higher. There's also a decent chance Mahomes goes lower when it comes to passing touchdowns, right? Because they can get into the end zone any number of ways here, and there's very little way that McDavid is going to lead the Oilers to a victory as what's probably going to be something along the lines, I haven't actually looked it up, but like minus 250, minus 300 type favorite in that game, right? Like if we already assume that they're going to win this game, I used to write an article about how bet on the Oilers was a waste of time. You might as well just bet McDavid over points. Just bet him over 1.5 points, because listen, if he gets 2 points, they're probably going to win. And even if they lose, he may still also get 2 points. In this case, it's like, yeah, the Oilers, expected to beat Montreal by quite a bit, are probably going to do so, as they always do, on the shoulders of McDavid. So at least 2 points for him. Obviously, we don't have a market out necessarily for him to go over 1.5 points, but that market is always pretty juiced. So in this case, we're finding a way to really, it's honestly more about backing McDavid to have a lot of points against Montreal at a plus price, while also sort of playing off of the Mahomes angle as well.
All right, I like it. That's interesting. See, I've looked into the cross sport props before. I've just never really taken a dive in terms of being able to find value or myself, or gone deep enough to try to find some of that. So it'll be something that I'm trying out this year, and that's definitely going to be one that I'm looking for. But Alex, you've got some for us here as well? Yeah,
I do. One thing I'll preface this by saying is that you want to look for like injury news too leading into Sunday, because a lot of these, obviously are up and they're all involving Sunday games. So like if there's a change in the market drastically in these NHL markets, or whether it be like the EPL markets, NBA markets, whatever, that reflect injury news, you don't see the cross sport props really move with those. So you kind of can find value that way too. But the one that really stands out to me is the Seattle Kraken, who are playing the Flyers that day. Kraken goals pick versus MVS receptions. So Valdez-Scantling is coming off that big game last week. So I think his number's a little bit inflated here. They kind of had to force feed him with all the injuries. 2-week break though. So you're going to have guys coming back for KC. You're probably going to have Tony back in the lineup. Obviously Hardman's out, but you're going to have, like Juju's probably going to play here. Different guys like that. They're going to be able to spread the ball out a bit more. And the thing with MVS in this matchup is that his average depth of target is really high. They kind of like, when they throw him the ball, it's usually pushing it down the field. He's going to have a couple of those deep targets every game. But for the most part, he's not going to factor into that short passing game, which we're probably going to see a lot more of against this Eagles defense. That D-line is going to be getting after Mahomes. Is Mahomes' ankle fully healthy? I'm not sure. They're probably going to want to get the ball out of his hands pretty quickly. MVS doesn't really factor into that game script so much. So we're getting a little bit of an inflated number here. His total's at 2.5 for this game. And to Matt's point, this is also presenting a good hedging opportunity depending on how this Kraken game goes, because you get a Kraken team here that leads the NHL this season in goals for at 5-on-5, a Flyers team that's bottom 10 in expected goals against per 60. So, 2 feels like kind of like the low here for the Kraken, where like the high of this range could be as high as like 8 or something, in their last, I think like 8 road games or something like that. They've hit 8 goals twice. They're averaging almost 5 goals a game in that. So they're scoring a lot of goals. They should be able to hit 3 relatively easily in this game. If they do hit 3, you have an opportunity to bet back on the over with MVS receptions at 2.5. And then, you push the cross sport one, you can potentially win the MVS one. If the Kraken get 4 or 5, you can hit the over on MVS and get that sweet middle and cash both. So yeah, I mean, if you just want to look to just play it straight up, I do like the Kraken at minus 125 pick versus MVS receptions. But also, again, if they get to that higher point of that range, you have a chance to potentially cash both of these bets.
All right. I like it. See, these are the ones that I'm talking about where I say, like, I haven't gone deep enough into them, where you see something like that and talking about Kraken goals on the day of, getting more goals than receptions of a guy playing in the big game. I guess that's what we're allowed to call it, right? The big game. You can't call it the other thing.
Well, again, and it all comes back to that first point, right? Whereas you just remember that all of these things are setting up for the Super Bowl, because all these hockey games are happening before the Super Bowl. Same thing. I think there's NBA games. I guess that's for a different podcast. But all these are sort of resetting a market and resetting a price. And so, whether it's McDavid points or Kraken goals, they obviously that bar could get set a lot higher for Mahomes and MVS, et cetera. Alex didn't mention the fact that MVS is also not particularly good at catching the football. So that's an element that probably needs to be mentioned. No one was more surprised when he was making nice catches in the AFC Championship game than, well, I guess all of us were probably equally surprised, as to say they were very surprised. Quick question: is there any chance with Seattle, Dave Haxall having ties to Philadelphia, do you think there's any chance either team brings him on for a one-day consultancy, because he is going, as a future Jack Adams Award winner, just out of respect for his coaching ability, maybe he comes in, works the challenge booth, something along those lines, he's just sitting there,
give him his flowers.
He'll be on the sidelines, beside Sirianni there.
Yeah. Okay. That's all I'm looking for. Just wanted to get
helps
his
case
down.
in the Jack Adams market too.
Yeah,
you win a Super Bowl in the same year that you lead the Kraken to a division title.
I'm almost positive that's never happened. Almost positive that's never happened.
Yeah, that's a cross sport prop for you right there.
That's right. Super
Let's
Bowl
get
Jack Adams
into
Award.
Today's games. So we'll give out our best bets for today. And Todd, we'll start with you. I know you're sitting there quietly, just kind of nervous about the big game. It's in the back of your mind at times throughout this week, but it doesn't mean we can't win some bets and make some money here as we lead up to it. So you're looking at the Colorado-Pittsburgh game right now. Colorado, they're 1 point out of the West wild card, and one thing that I've really enjoyed about doing this show all year is looking at the standings every single day. It's not something I would have done before. It's like a weekly thing prior to, and now it's every day, night and morning, looking and watching the movement. I mean, Colorado, they're 1 point out of the West wild card. They're 1 point back of Calgary, but they're 3 games in hand on Calgary. And then just even look past that, Minnesota, who's holding on to the 3rd spot in that Central Division, they're 1 point up on Colorado, and they have one less. Colorado has one less game played than Minnesota there. Like, you're 1 game in hand on them, so you have an opportunity for them to either jump the wild cards or jump up past Minnesota. Like, even if Minnesota's coming out, they could move into a wild card spot. There's plenty of movement available there. This Colorado team was 7-3 in the last 10 heading into the All-Star break, 14-9 on the road as they head into Pittsburgh here tonight. And Pittsburgh holding on to the last wildcard spot in the East right now, tied with the Islanders for points, but they got 4 games in hand. They're 3 points back of Washington, but again, 4 games in hand on them. They are coming off a 2-game losing streak here going into this one, as they were going into the All-Star break, so maybe it doesn't take as much have as much effect on these teams coming into this, but they did lose to Washington and San Jose before the break. There's 14-6-4 at home. Todd, which side of this game do you like tonight?
I'm on the Avalanche. Sorry, I played them minus 104. I believe that kind of range is still available. As you mentioned, they kind of went on a bit of a run prior to the break, going 7-3 in the last 10 games. Now they're getting a couple really important pieces back in Valeri Nichushkin and Bowen Byram. Nichushkin's one of the best two-way wingers in the league, honestly, and his impact on this Avalanche team can't be understated. This year, for example, as you mentioned, Avalanche aren't even holding a playoff spot, so they've lost a lot of games, but they're 15-3-2 with Nichushkin healthy. So I think he'll make a big difference. Byram put up half a point a game, was playing 21 minutes a night, one of the better puck movers. I think getting those two players back will be huge. Also, Casey DeSmith is really struggling for the Penguins right now. In 2023, he has an .897 save percentage, and he's conceded 5 goals or more in 3 of the last 4 games, whereas Alexander Georgiev has been terrific all season for the Avalanche. So I think they have an edge in goal. I think getting Nichushkin and Byron back makes them a lot better, and I just think they're the better team. So I'm on the Avs.
There you go. And we got some people in the chat who are on the Avs here tonight as well.
Me too.
Yeah. And all right, so we'll lock that in. We locked it in at -105. That seems to be the most widely available price that you can find there. But again, if you shop around, you can find some different prices on some of these, especially if you're in the state of New Jersey. There's some rogue plus money on the Avalanche to win sitting out there still. So make sure to shop around before you place these bets. But again, you can track them all on the BetStamp app in the Find Better section as Edgework HQ on there. And so far, up 43 units on the season, 8.1% ROI. Yeah. 234, 243, and 6 record on the year. Just tons of bets being placed, tons of bets being tracked, and up 43 units on the year so far. This one is interesting. We love the head-to-heads on the Tuesday show, but we're going to start with a double best bet where we've got people on the same side of one here tonight before we let them go head-to-head. Matt and Alex. Alex, I'll start with you on your thoughts on this one, but we're looking at San Jose Tampa Bay game here. Tampa Bay coming off a back-to-back. They just got dummied by Florida last night. In Florida, they're going back home tonight for whatever that travel is from Florida back to Tampa. But the San Jose team, they're going to be looking to move on from some pieces at the deadline. They just traded Magna, looking to move maybe Carlson, maybe Meyer, maybe some other guys here as we approach. They're 3-4-3 in their last 10. Like, this team is essentially just bottoming out. And this Tampa team, they're trying to hold off Florida coming from behind them. It's not necessarily like it's the most probable that Florida will catch them, but Florida's on a little bit of a heater here and trying to gain some ground and get themselves back into a playoff spot to rip that Adam Fantilli draft pick out of Alex's Habs hands. But
the dream is dead. It's done.
Yeah, they're trying to make distance. They're trying to catch up to the Leafs. This Tampa team is. They're 7-3 in their last 10, coming off a big loss to Florida last night on the back-to-back. Is there a reason more to the fact that they're coming off a back-to-back that you like the San Jose team tonight, Alex?
Well, I guess the reason would be the fact that Brian Elliott is starting for Tampa. I'll let Matt take more of the San Jose side of this, but I do like San Jose for a small sort of position. Obviously, I just don't think you can downgrade Tampa enough with Brian Elliott in net. That's basically what it boils down to. But for me, I also kind of like the over in this game. Now, the total has been beaten up a bit this morning, so like it's kind of you're laying some heavy juice on the over 6.5. I'm not sure what the best price available is right now. I think it's kind of drifted quite a bit from like -110-ish this morning, -115. Yeah, I mean, it's -120 there. That's nice. I would play that. What it boils down to is you have two of the better goal scoring teams in the NHL, neither of which are like that great defensively. They're both kind of middle of the pack. But then you take those, high octane offenses with those middling defenses and then add in Brian Elliott in net for Tampa. And then whoever starts for San Jose, they can't buy a save. And I just think that we're going to see a lot of goals in this game. I wouldn't even hate playing some like alt overs at like 8.5, 9.5, something like that. You can see like a 6-4 kind of game or something. But I think we're going to see a ton of goals in this one. Again, total's been beaten up a little bit. I still think you can justify laying a -120 or a -125 here, but that's probably like as high as I'd go. In terms of the under, I couldn't touch that. You would have to give me like 7 at like plus money to even consider it. I just can't do it. I think with Brian Elliott versus whoever is starting for the Sharks, I think this is shaping up to be a very high scoring game.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in this game, right? Because you mentioned like whoever's starting for the Sharks, and that's been the issue for the Sharks all season, right? And they're going to end up dismantling this team probably because of, as Zach said, right, 3-4-3 in their last 10 games. That doesn't sound all that great, but when I hear that, I hear 3 overtime games that could have just as easily gone the other way. and we're probably, in fact, pretty much definitely, we're plus money in those games. And so when they close out the pre-All-Star break portion of their schedule with the rare score the empty net goal and still manage to lose the game against Carolina, like that's a plus 250, something along those lines game that they probably should have. Listen, when the puck goes in the net to take a 2-goal lead on that empty net goal, you're feeling pretty confident about your bet there if you've got them plus 250. And you think something like that, we like to kind of create these narratives and these stories and like, oh, how are they going to pick themselves up after that? Well, they literally just went into Pittsburgh the very next night and then beat Pittsburgh as a plus 200, and change underdog. This is a team that I have rated from an even strength standpoint in the top 10 in the NHL. But as Alex mentioned, it's the goaltending that's crushed them. And if we were dealing with the Tampa Bay Lightning and a really like locked in Andrei Vasilevsky or something along those lines, you'd be like, oh, I don't really want anything to do with this. And the fact that Alex likes the over, I think, is sort of why you would also like the Sharks here, because you're not worried about that Tampa Bay Lightning playoff hockey, defensive style, Vasilevsky, blah, blah, blah. Because even yesterday, you can blame Vasilevsky and who knows, right? Little All-Star break hangover, a veteran goaltender who just got, sort of quasi shell shocked at the All-Star weekend and then has to come in and play a team. The Florida Panthers obviously have a lot to play for here as we get down, trying to make the playoffs and whatnot, as we've talked about them, seemingly as one of the maybe 5 most popular teams that we've talked about this season. It was kind of setting up for that, and the fact we were getting Florida, I think it was a plus 105 was the best price that I saw yesterday, was kind of a minor miracle. Not that anybody thought that they would sort of win 7-1, but as much as you might want to blame Vasilevsky, the Lightning's defense not particularly great either. And so if this Sharks team that is playing pretty good 5-on-5 and can put the puck in the net, like we're talking about kind of more of a coin flip game here, especially when obviously, as we've mentioned, Brian Elliott is involved, right? So if you're not getting the goaltending, you don't have the advantage necessarily in the goaltending. You don't particularly have a massive advantage 5-on-5. And by the way, like your defense is really kind of struggling here. Like, why wouldn't you take a shot at a plus 205 type of price here with the Sharks? So it's a sort of about a 4 or 5% edge for me here. I would have taken this anything at like kind of a plus 185, 190. Obviously, once you hit plus 200, from a betting math standpoint, right? You win this, you get 2 free bets for tomorrow versus 1.8 free bets tomorrow. So we'll take a shot with it on the Sharks at plus 205.
Yeah, you win this one and you get 1 bet on McDavid more points than Mahomes touchdowns, and 1 bet on Kraken more goals.
That's right. There you go. You pay for your cross-sport props, and maybe you can parlay them together. Maybe Todd will throw in like a Danish guy over 2.5 shots on Sunday, and we'll get a three person, 3 entity parlay. Something along those lines.
A little Lars Eller.
There you go.
Over 1.5 shots.
Yesterday on the Edgework show, So Money gave out a futures bet that got tracked here. Edmonton Oilers to win the Stanley Cup. Tracked that one in at plus 1,800, just based on where they're going right now, the fact that they're likely going to make some moves at the deadline, and So Money's essentially prediction of they're going to continue to improve and this price is going to continue to go down. Now is probably the best time to lock that in. But on that note, this Edmonton team right now, they are on fire as they headed into the All-Star break. They're 7-1-2 in their last 10, holding on to that first wild card spot in the West. And even I know narratives don't necessarily go into the betting, but if you're worried about anything with this Oilers team, Leon Draisaitl at the All-Star break, second in the NHL in scoring, came out and said he's not entirely happy with his game through the first half of the season leading up to the All-Star. So whatever that means for how he's going to come out after the fact, they're going up against a Detroit team here tonight in Detroit, who's likely looking at moving on from some pieces. We're seeing some rumors now about Dylan Larkin potentially moving on. People calling about Bertuzzi and Vrana doing pretty well in the AHL. Maybe he's a piece that could move on and find a spot somewhere else. This Detroit team has not been great this year. I don't necessarily think expectations of them were to be great, but they're kind of about in that spot where, hey, they're going to move on from some pieces and look to continue to build moving forward. Todd, why is it that you're on the Oilers tonight here against the Red Wings in Detroit?
A lot of reasons. The Oilers, as you mentioned, they've been winning a lot lately, and they're full value for it. They've been playing extremely well. At 5-on-5, they have the best high danger chance differential in the league during this 10-game spell. They're second in the league in high danger chances in that time, second in high danger chances against. So they're generating a ton and giving up very little. The Red Wings are not a good team. They're really struggling at 5-5 right now, especially in terms of generating offense. Only the Blue Jackets have generated fewer high danger chances over the last 10 games than the Red Wings. So them struggling to create chances and or they're suppressing them very well right now is not a good recipe. Ville Husso is also struggling right now. He has a sub 900 save percentage this calendar year, which is always scary when going up against this Oilers team because the Oilers, they normally win a lot of games on the back of their power play because it's all obviously extremely dangerous. So when they're running teams through the rink at 5-on-5 as well, they're very, very, very difficult to beat. So I played the Oilers in regulation. I got plus 100. I believe you can still get minus 105 or something. I would definitely still play that.
Yeah, I'm seeing it still here available, minus 105. So we'll lock that in. Oilers in regulation, minus 105. And again, if you want to track all the picks that are given out on the show, if maybe you can't catch the show on a certain day and you want to see what's going on, you can find all the picks that are given out in the BetStamp app in the Find Better section as Edgework HQ. So make sure to give that a look. Winning so far on the year, so try to keep that rolling here today. But I teased the head-to-head. We have to have one on a Tuesday show. It's something that has to happen. I'm not even going to give a big intro to this one. Matt, I'm going to let you take the floor first. Vegas, Nashville, who do you like tonight?
You know I love the home Predators. Home Predators or no Predators in my life.
It used to be Kings Tuesdays. Now it's Predators Tuesdays.
They shifted. And honestly, it was sort of like a Freaky Friday situation because there was a Predators-Kings game recently where I was on – it was in Nashville, so obviously I was on the Predators. And it was like they passed the baton from one team to the other. And the Preds were like, all right, we'll play on a bunch of Tuesdays at home and get backed by Matt. Honestly, like nothing rocket science as it rarely is here. I have the Preds winning this game sort of 53-54% of the time at minus 106 is we're getting down minus what am I there's even money out there. Anything sort of minus 105 or below gives me a couple of percent edge here on a team that when I talk about those sort of win probabilities, I'm talking full season with road and home splits. And if you're going to give me the Predators at home, which are just an inherently better team, I've talked about this before. Saros is better at home, et cetera, so that we're going to bump up their win probability a couple of percentage points. So when we're talking about a 3, 4, 5% edge here on the Predators, then that's a bet that I have to make. And again, I wasn't sold on this Golden Knights team when everybody was tripping over themselves back in October and November to anoint them. They're back, and I'm still not there, having watched them play going into the All-Star break as they coughed up a lead against New Jersey, got beat by the Rangers, et cetera. Pass for me on the Golden Knights here for the near future, and I'm going to keep riding the Preds and UC Saros at home on a Tuesday, or honestly pretty much any other night for that matter.
Fair enough.
I mean, Zach, you talked about how much the show is up this year. If I just didn't bet Predators games in general, either on them or against them, we might be double that. Like we might actually be double that because this team hates me. But I'm gonna go against the Predators again tonight. So we know how this ends. Everyone in the chat, just get your Preds bets in right now because that is a stone cold lock. Because I am going with Vegas here. I can't quit this Vegas team. I was high on them coming into the season. I had their point total over. I had some futures on them. Looked so good early on. Now their point total is back down to where they started at the season. Their futures have drifted again. Stone's out for the year. It's rough, guys. It's rough out there right now.
What an inspiring handicap.
It's rough. It's rough. You got to preface it. It's rough right now, but again, what factors in here for me is small sample sizes versus long sample sizes. And if you look at the recent sample size, like the last month or so, Vegas has been trending down considerably. Nashville's been trending up a bit. I mean, Vegas are losing a lot of games right now. It is what it is. But like the one thing they still know how to do very well. I'm still. I know because I know where this is going. I know where this is going. This is gonna be it's just like once I was like, I bet Vegas this morning. I was like, okay, I'm feeling good about it. And then Matt's like, I'm on the Preds. I'm like, yeah, okay, this is done. Like I hate this bet. So anyway,
I thought this was a head-to-head.
It is a head-to-head. It is a head-to-head. All right, let's get the confidence going. So one thing the Predators do, one thing the Knights do really well is
this guy almost went to go. He almost pumps the Preds tires in there.
It's rough, guys. It's rough. But yeah, no, one thing the Knights do really well is suppress goals and chances. So like they're still fourth in the NHL right now in expected goals against at 5-on-5. They don't allow a ton of high danger chances. They don't allow a ton of scoring chances. They're just a solid defensive team overall. Obviously, losing Stone hurts that a little bit. But like if you look at the last month without him, their defensive numbers haven't dropped off. Their save percentage has dropped off a little bit, but like they're still not allowing chances. They're still not allowing a ton offensively. And that's a bad matchup for a Preds team that maybe can generate decent offense. Like their underlying numbers aren't that bad, but they cannot convert those chances to goals. They really struggle to put the puck in the net. So when you're going to start allowing fewer chances, or you're playing a team that allows, less chances, you're going to have to convert at a higher rate in order to win these games. And that's something they really struggle with. So I think that, the matchup isn't great for them. And then again, you throw out the last month of the season. You don't throw it out, but like you look at it in the context of the whole season. And, Vegas's numbers are just considerably better. They're still like a top 5 team in expected goal share, I think. And then, the Preds are like bottom 10. So I just think that there's a little bit of value here. I think that we're sort of overreacting to the last month. Maybe I'm underreacting to the last month. Either way, Preds like minus 170 is probably a lock tonight. So, it doesn't really matter at this point. But that was my like good sell into my defeatist mindset. So yeah, I'm on the Knights. I like the Knights here. I like the Knights to like minus 110. I think you can get them at like minus 105, whatever. I think I played them plus 100 this morning. So
like feels like a really strong word given what we just heard from you, Alex. There. Here, this is going to make Alex feel a lot better. We obviously talked about the Predators, being at home, et cetera, et cetera. Listen, everybody just had the All-Star break, so honestly, whether you're rested or not kind of has a lot to do with how you spent the All-Star break. I will sort of admit that. But the Predators have been outside of Nashville for one night, a quick trip up to St. Louis, since January 12th. And if you're thinking January 12th wasn't that long ago, people still had hope for the Minnesota Vikings on January 12th. And
how is that making you feel better?
Are you a Vikings? Are you?
Oh my God!
Guys. I'm sorry, I didn't.
What is happening right now?
I totally forgot you were a Vikings fan.
This is not my finest hour on this show. This is just a tough scene here. When I'm getting text yesterday, I'm taking my morning dump and I'm sitting there and I'm looking at my phone and I'm getting texts and they're like, hey, you can get Vegas at like some real off-market prices to not make the playoffs. I'm like, yeah, that's great for my future. So like pointing me to different books to bet them to not make the playoffs. I'm like, you know where this is going. This team is absolutely collapsing right now. But a big win tonight in Nashville. Things turn around real quick. Real quick. Yeah.
All right. Before we get to Toddy props and close this one out, there is a question here in the chat, so I want to make sure to get to that. And if you do have questions throughout the course of the show, make sure to send them over on YouTube, put them in the chat. We will try to read them in real time and answer them in real time. Unfortunately, we don't see them on Twitter, so you will have to go over to the YouTube if you want to do that. But Connor Hartle here asking, any thoughts on the Bedard Bowl tonight? Ducks at plus 115 doesn't seem bad. So I know that wasn't a best bet coming into this one, but any thoughts there, Matt?
I had it. Didn't I have it? Check the notes. Am I not?
Oh, yeah.
It was in the Telegram.
Yes, I see it there. Yeah.
Check the notes.
Check the game notes.
I'm right there. I forget the gentleman's name.
Connor.
I'm right there with you, man. And it's not all that pretty. It wasn't pretty last night when I was on the Ducks at plus 317 and they go down 2-0. And it looks like one of those games where you just feel like the idiot because you backed the plus 300 underdog. Then boom, boom, within about a minute, they score 2 goals in the third period, get the game to overtime. And now you're the genius who has a team in overtime and or a shootout with a plus 300. And obviously they lose the game, we lose the bet. Luckily, we also had the Coyotes last night, so sort of made out okay on two kind of ugly underdogs. And now you go back to the Ducks on a back-to-back, and you're like, man, you feel like Alex trying to sell himself on the Golden Knights. You're like, oh, the Ducks on a back-to-back, like, I don't really want anything to do with that. And then you look up and you realize that their opponent is the Chicago Blackhawks. And yes, that should make you feel a lot better, because honestly, I have this game Ducks by a slight margin, basically sort of 52% to the Blackhawks 48%. So obviously we're kind of getting a flipped price there when it comes to the Ducks at plus 115. So yes, purely a numbers play, just as last night was purely a numbers play. And of course we had a little bit of a roller coaster ride with the Ducks last night. I imagine probably the same thing tonight, but yes, Ducks plus 115 is a play for me.
Yeah, well. I lean Ducks here as well. But I like the over perhaps a little bit more. Just two of the worst defensive teams in the NHL with like not terrible offenses. They can at least put the puck in the net, and no real 5-on-5 goaltending that's going to scare you here. I think that the over is a decent look at 6. If you got to find a 6, though, I'm not going to play at 6.5.
Yeah, I mean, these are literally my 2 worst rated teams of the season. So,
and like their defensive numbers play heavily into that, right? Like they're like far and away the 2 worst defensive teams in the NHL this season, and they don't have the goaltending to necessarily help with that. So,
that's Rich H mentioning these 2 teams with a combined 18 regulation wins and a collective minus 139 plus minus on the year. Yeah. That's the Ron Burgundy clip. I'm not even mad. That's actually kind of impressive. Don't even know what to make of that.
We need a 3-point game here, though. We need a 3-point game for the Habs. That's what we need.
Yeah. Okay.
It'd be a great bit if you guys just made up a name of a third sort of hot prospect and just talked about him like he was a real person all season long.
Leo Carlson.
I would absolutely believe that was a real person, because I barely know Connor Bedard, and I have no understanding of this other gentleman that you keep mentioning.
You want to be in the top 3 this year. That's like you want to be in the top 3 to get one of those Bedard, Fantilli, or Carlson. I think there's a bit of a drop off after that.
And Michkov in there too.
But he's a little like less proven right now, just because you don't know what the hell is going on with the whole. Hey,
I'm
not about
Trent,
to put myself on Russia's radar, but
don't forget about Trent Fitzwanky, the American defensive prospect.
If you're gonna make up a name, it's got to be a better name than Fitzwanky.
Is it any different?
You can do better than that.
Is it any different than some of these other guys? Is it? Anyways, speaking of random names that people don't necessarily know, Todd, what's up with your props?
All right, I got 5 props currently. First one, Nathan McKinnon over 4.5 shots, minus 110. Believe it or not, the Penguins have given up more shots per game to centers than every team in the league except for Anaheim. That's their Achilles heel. They've struggled there all season long, and just in general, they haven't been nearly as good defensively as they usually are. On top of that, Nichushkin's back. He's on McKinnon's line tonight. McKinnon generates shots at a higher rate with Nichushkin on his line than any other player on the Avalanche. So should give him a boost, which he doesn't even need, honestly. So I like McKinnon. Zach Hyman over 3.5 shots, plus 125 against Detroit. Hyman leads the Oilers in 5-on-5 shots this year, which is important because the Red Wings don't take many penalties. So if you're going to get shots against them, you'll probably have to do it 5 versus 5. Hyman has attempted almost 7 shots a game over the last 10. He's playing top line with McDavid, top power play. He's a University of Michigan alumni. Maybe that helps playing in Detroit. I don't know. I don't care. Either way, I like him.
I do just interject. I do like that Todd, 5 seconds after I tried to make up a name, gave us a prop with Zach Hyman, as if there wasn't a time in our lives where we would never believe that was a real name for a hockey player. But sorry, go ahead, Todd.
Okay.
Hyman and Wank.
Third one here, we have Alex Pietrangelo over 2.5 shots. The Predators have been bleeding shots all season long. While they've gotten a little better lately, they're still bottom 5. Pietrangelo is not a player who's impacted by home or road splits. He just kind of generates the exact same volume no matter which building he's playing in. Plays a ton at even strength, still quarterback in the top power play, even with Shea Theodore healthy. And also Pietrangelo faced the Predators 3 times during the calendar year 2022. He generated 29 attempts those 3 games, which is nearly 10 per game. I'm no mathematician, but if you're taking 10 attempts, you're probably going to hit the net 3 times. So I like Pietrangelo as well. Roman Josi over 3.5 shots, -120. I'm a bit mad. I missed it. A little bit better line this morning. He leads the entire NHL in shot attempts the last 10 games. He always shoots more at home than on the road. Vegas is missing Mark Stone, so that weakens them a little bit in terms of carrying the run of play. So I like Josi. Patrick Kane's line came up during the show. I jumped on him over 3.5, -128. He hasn't even been shooting that much lately, but the Ducks are the worst shot suppression team in the league by a country mile, and they're also in a road back-to-back, so I'm not really going to avoid them with regards to shots. That's all I have for right now, but I'm probably going to play Trevor Zegras later today. The Hawks give up a ton of shots, especially to centers, and he has a good history against them. And also Troy Terry's out, he might be out, so maybe Zegras plays a little bit extra, takes on more of the load offensively, so I like him as well.
All right. Thank you, Todd. Appreciate it as always. There's plenty of picks given out here today, so if you want to see what the picks were, you want to see in a recap, make sure to head over to the Edgework HQ account on the BetStamp app in the Find Better section. Plenty of picks, plenty of options to tail, and make sure to shop around and get the best lines, as some of these we track as the most widely available. So in your state or province or wherever you're at, you may be able to find a better number on some of these as well. But thank you to everyone who tuned in here today. Greatly appreciate it. And we see Andrew Coots saying Oilers times Avs hammer of Thor. That goes along with the Hammer Betting Network theme there that you got. We did have best bets on Oilers and Avs here tonight. So
do we lead of the 5 days of the week? I think we lead in volume by like a considerable margin.
Well,
I would say so.
100%.
Whether we do or not, congrats to the other 4 days of the week for breaking even this season.
Yeah.
Very cool of them.
I'll see if I can find some data, if I can split out the days that the bets are tracked on and how those are performing, and then I'll report back to you guys in terms of how many compared to the other days.
Make sure to skew the numbers a little bit if you have to, depending on what the data shows.
Well, yeah, of course. Like, what do you think I'm going to do here? Come on.
Well, it's all hinging on Alex's Carolina Hurricanes future that he may or may not have got in at whatever price he may or may not have got that in on.
A couple better prices than we locked it in at, let's be honest.
Exactly.
But we do have a Wild to win the Stanley Cup bet pending, and now an Oilers one. So futures portfolio here building up slowly as the season goes on.
So money likes pain. He likes pain
so money. Glutton for punishment here. But thank you to everyone who tuned in here today. Todd, Matt, Alex, appreciate you guys hopping on, giving your insights as always as well. Looking forward to next Tuesday with you guys to recap the Super Bowl, see how Todd's doing, if he's still in pain.
Might have to call in for that
excited, one. But he could be in pain for a number of reasons after this Sunday. So we'll see how it is next Tuesday. Look forward to seeing you guys then. And for anybody else who's looking for more hockey content this week, make sure to subscribe to the Edgework YouTube channel live for the rest of this week, Wednesday through Friday, and as usual, Monday through Friday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time here on this channel. We do have a new podcast with David Pagnotta, Dennis Bernstein, and Zach Bodenstein that comes out every Wednesday, so you're going to want to check that out. And more breakdowns, futures markets that we're looking at with just regular videos that'll come out throughout the course of the week. So make sure to check that out as well. Thank you to everyone who tuned in here today. Look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow.